Dr. Leonard with Central Ohio Spine and Joint. Today I wanted to talk about another topic dealing with injury prevention and running sports. This month we've kind of hit a couple different topics. Today we're going to talk with a friend of mine and actually endurance athlete herself, Lauren, who is the owner of Base Tri Fitness. She's going to talk a little bit about the importance of coaching in running sports. We work with a number of different athletes in our office, and one thing that I think is unusual with runners is actually seeing them linked up with a coach. I think she's going to have some great insight into some of the value that they provide. Some of the value on, and then we'll get started.
Oh, it worked.
Yes, there we go. Sorry for the
Hello.
delay there, guys. I apologize for that little break there. But, guys, I want to welcome Lauren. I asked Lauren to join us today to talk a little bit about, what she's done for her career over the last couple of years. So I just want to start off, Lauren, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of your background and what you do now as a profession?
Sure. So I have been in the fitness and wellness industry since I was 18, basically, and got my undergrad and grad degree in physical education, sport management. And then I spent a lot of time in college trying to figure out essentially my life. Went through some personal issues and found the sport of triathlon. I started training, saw Kona and was like, oh my gosh, that sounds like a great idea. I would love to do that. And so now here I am a decade plus later, still trying to get there. But I've since become a coach. I've coached for more than 6 years. Most of my athletes are triathletes, but there's runners, cyclists, swim run athletes. Basically, if it takes a long time to accomplish, I can help, somebody kind of reach their goal. Yes, and we just had an athlete qualify for Kona last weekend, which was really exciting. So that was a pretty big day for me as a coach. So
yeah, that's amazing. Great. Well, let's get right into it. Just a couple questions for you here.
Sure.
Like I mentioned at the very beginning, kind of our topic of this month is, we're kind of in the peak season right now of running, and we're seeing a little spike in, some of these overuse injuries. So we're trying to provide, different insights into how our runners can prevent some of these injuries at the same time improve their performance. And, one thing that I think kind of opened my eyes over the last couple of years when I met you is the idea of actually having a running coach. There's very few runners that come into the office that are actually, either know about a coach or have seen coaches around that are able to provide value. So can you just give me a brief overview on why do you think having a running coach is so important?
Well, I think a lot of people, when they get into running, they realize all I need is shoes and I can go out the front door and I can just go run. And then they start doing it and they realize, oh my gosh, this is a little more difficult than I thought, is usually what happens. And so as people start to run more consistently and deal with the discomfort, depending on whether they have an athletic background or not, they start to realize that maybe they don't know exactly how to run faster or further or more efficiently. And so I think a coach is really helpful for several reasons. It helps the athlete understand proper running mechanics, even if it's as simple as teaching someone to fire their glutes when they run, which sounds really simple, but you work with a lot of athletes who have glutes that don't activate when they're just walking. So trying to get an athlete to understand that if they're frustrated with their running and they're not really sure how to get better, faster, further, I think that that's one of the most important things, is that a coach can give them structure, ask questions that are probing to try and figure out, okay, what is giving you this pain or discomfort? Is there something else other than just the musculoskeletal stress of running that's causing you pain, discomfort, and all that?
Yeah. So from your kind of experience with coaching, what are one or two things that you picked up on over the years is why people continue to get injured? Is it the pace that they're running at? Is it the distance? Are they not getting enough recovery? What are just a few things that you see?
As a coach, I think the biggest thing is from my perspective, I have athletes, I give them a plan. They're supposed to go out and do it. They upload their data. I look at it. what happens is athletes will tend to add things. They'll go run farther and not tell me. They will add a second run, or they'll go to CrossFit for the first time and not tell me. They'll do things without considering kind of the overall impact of what it might have on their body. And if you're giving your coach the ability to structure this, you really want to make sure you follow their paradigm and their recommendations, in my mind. So that's one thing, is people just doing too much and not telling their coach. If they don't have a coach, I think the other thing too tends to be being in the wrong type of shoe. So a lot of people, and there's a great shoe that's out that I love because I'm not going to tell you what shoe it is, but there's a lot of space in the toe box, which is nice for people who have larger feet or really need their toes to spread. But the problem with it is it's pretty much a zero drop shoe. So if you're going from a shoe that's anything greater than the zero drop down into it, you can get a lot of lower leg injuries. And that's something that's going to be a huge impact. If you're starting running, then you go from neutral support to support you don't need. So making sure you're in the right shoes and have the right equipment. And then doing dumb stuff. I mean, going out with your buddies and being like, oh, I can run with Johnny so-and-so because he, I used to be able to beat him in high school at, 100-meter sprint or whatever. And you go out to the track and you pull a hamstring because you just do something stupid. So I think it's balancing the fact that you got to know how fit you are now. You need the right shoes, and you got to listen and have some sort of plan, whether a coach writes it for you or you do research. There's plenty of information online. Just, read a little bit. I think that would be helpful too.
Yeah. Yeah. So where have you seen like the ability to make the greatest gains in your athletes? Is it the novice athletes that are wanting to run a 5K, a 10K? Like, can you make the biggest impact on their performance simply based on structuring a program for them? Or do you find that, the higher end athletes tend to be able to take it to the next level because you structure it a little bit better?
I think it comes down to the athlete, their goals, and how committed they are to the process. So I have some athletes who, it's like a tube of toothpaste is an example that I use. So an athlete who's new, has never run before, but is tougher than nails and a hard worker, they have a huge tube of toothpaste, right? And so they start running 10-minute miles and they're training for a 5K. The ability to take that athlete, if their mechanics are reasonably good, and make them fitter is very high, so fitness comes out of them really quickly. Improvements happen really, really, really fast. And so as fitter and faster that you get, there's less and less toothpaste in that tube, and it's harder and harder to get it out. So I always like working with athletes who may be slower, but they really, really buy into the process and they care about the incremental gains. You can get a bigger improvement or a more dramatic improvement. Let's say you look at a marathoner, someone who's going from a 4:30 marathon to try and run under 4 hours. That's a 30-minute jump in time, right? But that's very doable for certain people. It may take a while, but that's more of a dramatic shift than, say, taking a minute and a half off of your 5K time. But it's just time, right? And distance. So I think that answers the question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So one of the things that I think kind of really drew me to you guys was the ability to individualize, your recommendations, your coaching. Something that we kind of pride ourselves on in the office is being able to, evaluate each patient that walks through the door on an individual basis, give them recommendations. Can you tell us a little bit about, your kind of process that you go through, some of the science that you use to work with your athletes, and then design a program based on how they test?
Sure. So we like doing blood lactate tests on our athletes. It's been a little different now that I have relocated to the other side of the country from Ohio, but we still have the ability to do it in Ohio, and I have the ability to do it out here in Colorado. But we can also field test. We can do, there's a bunch of different ways that we can evaluate fitness, doing marker sets, things like that. And so what we try and do is we try and build somebody's plan around their strengths and their weaknesses, right? So we want to capitalize on their strengths. And when we do a lactate test on someone, we may find that they are just running way too hard for mitochondrial development and to build their aerobic base that we want to start with. And we may find that they're just not running fast enough. We may find the opposite, where we're like, all right, Susie Q, you got to bump it up a little bit. But I think that over the years, what's really, really been helpful is really looking at an athlete as an individual and not saying, okay, this is our protocol for everybody. It's gonna work for everyone, because it doesn't. And I have some athletes that we've completely removed the science piece, in a sense, and it's all perceived exertion, because it's more enjoyable for that athlete. But yes, typically we test our athletes, and evaluating the lactate threshold curve, we use that for a lot of our long course athletes. But again, we try and balance what the athlete specifically needs and go from there.
Awesome. Cool. So, obviously I'd love to see some of our athletes and some of the people here in Columbus get linked up with you guys. I'll put your web address in the comments when this video comes out. But, let's say someone's, on the other side of the country, and they're looking to get a coach in their hometown. What are just a couple things to look for when interviewing or looking to hire a coach?
I think the first thing that I recommend athletes do is take an inventory of yourself and what you need and want as an athlete. If you're somebody who needs accountability and you just want someone to check that you've done your work for the day, then that's something you need to know. So that will require a little less of, and pause here a second. And then let's say there's another athlete who's like, I don't care if my coach is the biggest jerk in the world, I want to qualify for Boston. Then know that too. And so if you in your mind know what you need, what kind of personality traits you have, I think it helps when you interview a coach to say, look, this is my type of personality. This is how I respond really well to things. Do you think you'd be a good fit? And the coach should ask you questions as well. And so if they don't ask you questions and they don't interview you back, I would say that that's probably a red flag. I would also say that don't judge your coach based on their own athletic results. I know a lot of fantastic coaches who have never done a triathlon or don't have the greatest running prowess. And I know the opposite. I know some crazy, crazy runners who are fantastic coaches. So I think it's going to be a personality fit, number one, a paradigm fit. So do you buy into the lactate threshold testing? If you're somewhere in like Connecticut and you're like, oh, Lauren, I want you to coach me. Fantastic. But can you do a blood test on me? I can't, but I can tell you where to go get it done. We can look at the data and evaluate it that way. So knowing what you have in your community is important. And then I just really, really can't suggest enough that you talk to some of the current athletes that the coach, is coaching. If your coach or the person that you're interviewing will let you do that, that's great. If for some reason they're like, I don't want, for some reason privacy, that's fine. I personally would think that's kind of a red flag, but that's me and that's my personality. You may not care. But those are some things that I would think about. And I mean, there's a ton of great, fantastic people out there, and it's what makes you want to do the work. If you find someone who just really inspires you, that's good enough. And if that's all you're looking for. So know what you want, know who you are, and interview them, ask them questions. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. Perfect.
Cool.
So like I said, guys, I'm going to link up all of their information in the comments once this video is published. But Lauren, thank you so much for hopping on real quick with us. We may jump on again here in a week or so. I'd love to talk a little bit more specifics on kind of the lactate testing and some of the testing stuff that you do. So guys, if you have any questions on anything that we talked about, make sure to type them up in the comments so we can hit them in greater detail at another time. But thanks, Lauren. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Have a good day, guys.
Thanks.